This is Rob Temple for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Shane McGUIGAN. We're here at the wonderful University of Kent, the new location for McGUIGAN's gym. Well, it's not new, but September. But for people who maybe haven't watched, shame on them. This is where we are now. How are you, Shane? Happy New Year.
Yeah, good, thanks, Rob, and Happy New Year to you and everyone at Boxing Social. Ryan, top lad. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm decent.
Good, and also we'll add to that Andy Purwell and
Andy as well.
Andy and Chandler.
It's crossing my mind. I was thinking, Andy, that's it.
Happy New Year, Andy. So, Shane, how was your break? Every time I speak to you, you're always very, very busy, which we'll come on to later parts of this interview. Did you manage to get a little bit of downtime over Christmas?
Yep, I did. I went to Thailand, did some island hopping with my girlfriend Josephine. It was a busy year last year. Lots of big fights, lots of challenges, lots of lows as well. Personally as well, but no, I managed to get a little bit of a break. Luke, actually, the news that Luke was boxing for Tuna came up, and we had him scheduled to box on December the 19th. So we basically spoke to Eddie, and we decided to not compromise our position by taking an intermediate fight, as it were, just a fight to sort of fill the gaps, and we would start negotiations and all that sort of stuff with the Fortuna fight, which is still ongoing.
We've got that fight coming up. We've also got Lawrence Okolie due to fight for the vacant WBO title, so we'll come on to that later on in the interview. But reason why I'm here today, well, not the reason why I'm here today, obviously it's just to see you and your lovely fighters, of course. Josh Taylor, I, like many other people, was shocked to hear that he had parted company with Cyclone Promotions and also yourself as a trainer. Let's start there, because I'm sure that's what people have tuned in to watch. Yeah, tell me about that. Was it as big of a surprise to you as it was to many others? Yeah,
it was a bit of a surprise. Well, it was a huge surprise and a bit of a killer blow, really. Basically, we were in contact, myself and Jake, on the phone to Josh regularly. He went out to Dubai on a holiday, came back. He was really, really busy after the WBSS final, and obviously, in getting the credit that he rightfully deserved for taking those challenges on, and yeah, I mean, it was late December, I think so, and I got a phone call from Jake saying that Josh had made contact with him and was asking to leave. So it was a pretty big shock. There was, I didn't see anything coming, and just, yeah, as soon as I sort of heard that, I was like, my heart sort of sank. Just mainly because of the effort and time that I'd put in and that we had put in personally to Josh, and I feel like managed him and trained him impeccably. 16 fights, unbeaten, unified world champion, Ring Magazine champion. Yeah, boxed on all over the world with me. I took him to Vegas, and he went out and trained in New York as well. He's El Paso. He's boxed all over, and it's 4.5 years of my time that I invested in him. To find out like that was a bit of a blow.
Obviously, just going to try and clear a few little bits and pieces up. I do appreciate that you can't really, or maybe don't want to go into certain aspects of the whole thing. So we'll try and keep it relatively short and sweet as possible. Obviously, the announcement was that he'd left Cyclone, which was Cyclone Promotions, and obviously under the stewardship of your dad, Barry McGUIGAN, as a manager. There was no initial announcement about your training situation with Josh, but obviously from what you've just said then, and from what we've learned, you're not going to be training him. Just explain to people why you can't train him and why that situation has to be that way, so to speak.
Well, everyone knows that I train fighters that aren't necessarily always managed by my dad. George, and David, and I have an advisory agreement with Luke, but with Josh, Dad had signed him from the start. He'd made contact with him, and I feel like he's done an amazing job. He's just done an amazing job with him. Obviously, I've trained him and helped, but he's matched him impeccably, and he's built him up. And I feel like it's not right to be doing it that way. I'm not going to continue to train him. When he's done that to somebody so close to me, and that's lights are off. Mood setting. Isn't that nice? I'll hold it. So nice dance. So that's basically where my heart lies on that one. It was such a great thing that we had going, and it's 16 fights in, unbeaten, loads of acid tests at the right times. The Gervonta Davis fight, the Postal fight, the Super Series, taking into that great tournament at that time, and all these wins and big achievements. I just feel like it's not fair to be for that person to be cut out. So I just myself and Josh will no longer be working together.
When was the last time you spoke to Josh?
Mid-December. We were chatting. Jake was constructing a deal with Eddie. I had a few meetings on Luke's behalf, and Jake was at those meetings, and we were in regular talks with JT about a multi-fight deal with Matchroom USA and DAZN and Sky. We were constructing something really big on the table for him. Obviously, he chose to do his own thing, and it's just as much as I can really say on that one. I feel a bit begrudged by it all, to be honest. I've worked tirelessly. If he'd have been a year into his career, fine, no problem. And if he'd have called me and talked to me and everyone and done it the right way, then that would have been fine. But 4.5 years in, and all the achievements and everything, and then to do it in that manner, it was just like, we all have as a family has had a really personal loss, and we've had just a horrific time of late, and I feel like I'm just annoyed that I've invested so much time and energy in someone that just doesn't deserve it.
Okay, well, I think that's probably, we'll have to leave it there, because I do understand that there's things that you can and can't say. From my own personal point of view, people who have watched the channel, people who have watched myself interview, not just yourself, but also Josh Taylor, I do hope that if there isn't now, and I'm not prying and haven't pried, I do hope that somewhere along the line there can be an amicable nature between you, but that, as I say, is my own selfish feelings. But anyway, moving on, 2020, yeah. McGUIGAN's gym. Got yourself a couple of world champions in waiting. This funny old revolving door of boxing keeps on going. Let's talk about Luke Campbell first. Before we talk about Luke Campbell, let's talk about the fragmented situation with the WBC's lightweight division. I mean, they've got 2, 3, 4 champions. They've champions in recess, interim champions, super duper champions. Explain to me, if you can, the situation currently with the WBC lightweight title.
Okay, we boxed Yvonne Mendy for a final eliminator for Mikey Garcia's title. We sat there waiting for a very long time. He went up to welterweight to box Errol Spence. He told the WBC he might come back down, he might not come back down. That process took quite a long time. We were like, Eddie, give him a nudge, give Mauricio a nudge and stuff. And obviously we can understand and appreciate how much Mikey Garcia has done for the WBC in terms of he's 3-weight world champion or 4-weight world champion, and he's always won their belts. So we can understand and appreciate that. So we gave it time, and then there was like a there was quite a lot of people that had boxed for eliminators. So we were expecting, once Garcia sort of said, all right, I'll give my title up, become heritage champion or whatever they called him. Basically, they said, all right, well, Luke's got a fight. Is it Fortuna? Is it Abdulev? Is it Haney? Ultimately they put in, which was a wild card, they put in Lomachenko, because whoever from their side said, all right, well, we want Loma to box for the belt, and it makes sense financially, so they obviously did something that does not normally happen. A champion of 2 other belts goes in as a mandatory challenger, so then that became the fight that had to be made. Eddie done a fantastic job bringing it to the UK. He gave Luke the opportunity to fight for 3 belts, everything like that. He lost, but put up a fantastic fight. Then this is where it gets complicated. Because they gave Lomachenko that opportunity, they said, all right, you have to box the winner of Abdulev Haney, and then after that you have to box Fortuna. So Loma obviously doesn't want to box the winner of that yet, because he's probably he's looking for the undisputed fight, which was either Richard Comey or Lopez, which you can get onto after that. And then they said, all right, well, we'll make you franchise champion. Haney boxes Abdulev, won it, and then he won the interim. Then he got elevated to world champion. But then the wild card was he should have boxed Fortuna as his first defence, because Fortuna was sat there waiting, because it was he got elevated to world champion overnight, and it was for the sort of, he didn't really win his title. Then he had that bit of a farcical fight on the undercard of a farcical show with Logan Paul versus KSI, and then he done his shoulder, and the WC said, right, well, you have to defend this within a certain amount of time, and he was like, I can't, because I've got to go in for surgery. So they didn't strip him, they just said, all right, well, you can fight the winner of Fortuna versus X. And Eddie and everyone has done a great job to say, well, actually, wait, it's because Fortuna's got Al Heyman, a powerful man behind him. He's got Samson Liakovic as well as his manager. So 2 big, powerful people. They were putting the pressure on the WC, and they got us the opportunity, because rightfully so, he should have boxed somebody. You never get an easy fight for a world title, but he sat patiently for a long period of time to box for it, and then they sort of chucked him in with Lomachenko, and this is a predicament that we're in. So we are fighting for the vacant world title against Javier Fortuna, with the first defence being against Devin Haney, if he's ready in time. If not, we can have a fight, but then we will have to box him at some stage if he stays at 135 pounds.
Long story. Wouldn't quite say short. I'm going to have to go and do my dancing again now. Usually we have Chris Billam-Smith in the gym to do things like this.
But normally doesn't happen. It must mean we've been in there for must mean that we've been in there for longer than 6 hours or something, because it only starts happening really far into it.
It has been a long day. Not that we're complaining, but anyway. Hopefully that was able to clear up a little bit of the confusion around the
family tree for it.
You should do. You could have a family tree, WBC family tree. Well, they've got so you've now got the winner of Campbell Fortuna, Devin Haney, Vasyl Lomachenko. Not that he's ever going to come back to lightweight, but if Mikey Garcia comes back to lightweight, he's a champion emeritus. So you've essentially got 4 possible champions in one governing body. Yeah.
Well, Mikey Garcia was I think he was thinking, I'll only come back to lightweight if the Lomachenko fight presents itself. Now he's stayed at 147 pounds. His next one's I think he'll probably go to welterweight. And Lomachenko is just I need to get all the belts. But you have to understand that this is a business. There's promoters and managers and everybody putting pressure on these mandatory challenges. And when you have, like AJ for instance, when you have 3 belts, it's hard to keep every mandatory challenger happy, because you can only box 3 times in a year, and that's just boxing. So it's a juggling act.
Mentioned Teofimo Lopez and his spectacular win over Richard Commey. I know you would have had certainly half an eye on that fight at least. What did you make of his performance? A lot of people thought that was a pretty much a 50-50 fight going in.
Yeah, and I would have been one of them saying it, because you know how good Commey is. You know, he's a seasoned pro, but it looked like he had a lot of hard fights. You know, I know he's had a lot of gym wars. He used to come down and spar Frampton and stuff, and he was always. I think I've had him sparring Taylor as well. He's just you know, he's had a lot of hard fights, Commey, but someone that you've always got to be 100% for. But he got hit with a fantastic shot, and I don't know. It just looked like his punch resistance has gone. But Lopez is 21. He's really fresh, hard puncher, big for the weight, and yeah, really. Look, he rose to the occasion and done a fantastic job. But do I think him versus Lomachenko is the right decision right now? If I was looking after Lopez, I'd say no. It's not like he's a Luke Campbell who's had endless acid tests against Linares and all these sort of people, you know, and he's 31. Luke had to take the opportunity against Lomachenko, whereas this guy's 21 years of age, burst onto the scene, and I think, you know, they should potentially protect him, but Top Rank is obviously forcing that fight on him because they're heavily invested in Lomachenko and getting him something that he's asked for, which is the undisputed fight. Also, there's rumours that Lopez is really, really struggling at weight, and this is going to be his last fight at 135 pounds. So yeah, I mean, the landscape of the lightweights is really there. I mean, you've got Ryan Garcia, who's a really strong prospect coming out of nowhere as well. So, you know, he's a bit of an Instagram star, but he can also really whack, and he's a talented kid. So Luke, by winning this fight, he's got some big names. You know, he's got some big names, and there's also potential for Luke to move up to 140 pounds at a time when it suits us.
You mentioned Jorge Linares, obviously boxed Luke Campbell. He's now back with Ismail Salas, back down 135 pounds. All being well, and Campbell gets that WBC title. Could we expect to see that as a potential rematch this year? Yeah,
definitely. And it's actually really good to see him back with Salas, because I think they worked really well together. And it'd be a great fight for us. I'd love that. You know, if Haney's not ready, I'd love to be able to win the world title with Luke against Fortuna, and then take the Linares fight back here in Hull or something late summer. It's something I've spoken to Eddie about, and also Luke. So yeah, there's just some huge fights out there on the horizon, and like, it would be nice for Luke to clean his slate against someone like Linares, because we beat him Mende, and it'd be really nice to be able to get the nod over Linares. But you know, him in his own right, he's still seriously live. Obviously, he stepped up to 140. You know, it was a leap too far considering he started at featherweight. But you know, him at lightweight is still a dangerous fight, and it's a very credible defence of a world title if we get the win.
Also has quite the profile over here, having fought Crawler and Kevin Mitchell, etc. One name at lightweight they haven't mentioned, who we saw in action, I think on the 28th of December, Gervonta Davis moved up from super featherweight against Yuriorkis Gamboa. Went a little bit longer than a few people were expecting. What did you make of his performance?
Well, I thought he started fast. He caught him with that looping left hook as he stepped around him. It was a great shot. He caught him in the second round, and then I don't know. He just was looking for the eye-catching shots all the time, and wasn't, you know, and wasn't finishing. Obviously, he got the job done, but you know, Gamboa in his day was a phenomenal fighter. But you know, I haven't seen much of him since Terence Crawford fight which was quite a long time ago. You know, and I would have expected him being at 38 years of age to have got stopped quite a lot quicker. But you can't make no mistakes. That kid can fight. That Gervonta Davis is a talented boy. I don't know, by him stepping up much more than 135 pounds, will he be as effective? But then again, it's something that's huge. Do you know what I mean? He's got a huge profile. He's got Mayweather behind him. He's a massive money maker and a big draw for Al Heyman. So yeah, there's always potential fights down there, like against Gervonta Davis. But for now we'll just go and do our own thing. Obviously, Fortuna's looking to win it because that's a perfect fight for those two to make. But PBC to make a big unification. Well, because he's the regular champion, isn't he? But no, he's a dangerous fight, and I believe he's one of the hardest fights out there for anyone in the lightweight division. So big names in the 135.
Just final one on Luke Campbell. When can we expect to hear an announcement? What kind of date are you looking towards? Is it between 1 or 2? When can we expect to hear something?
Well, we're looking at potentially late March for a UK fight, or we're looking at early to middle of April for a US fight. It's between two. Eddie's working with Samson Liakovic and Luda Kubas from Al Heyman's team. So I'm in regular contact with. They're doing their best, and if they can't come to an agreement, it will go to purse bids. If it goes to purse bids, then it will probably look like it's in. I'll hold it. It will probably look like it's in the US if that goes to purse bids. But yeah, hopefully we can come to an agreement sometime soon and it works out for everyone.
From one potential world champion to another one, Lawrence Okolie. I've just spoken to Lawrence Okolie. It seems like not that long ago he was picking up the British title. It really has been a rapid ascent up the professional ladder. Just waiting again on an announcement for him to potentially box Krzysztof Glowacki for the vacant WBO cruiserweight title. When can we expect to hear something on that?
Once again, in the next couple of days, there's 2 potential dates for Lawrence as well, and for Glowacki. But yeah, I think that will probably be late March. There's the potential of boxing on the undercard. I think it's of Golovkin in America, in Chicago. So obviously there'll be a big Polish crowd out there. So it will sort of be the away fighter, but it's nice. It could be a good challenge. The thing about Lawrence is he's not afraid of taking any challenges, and it would be nice as a British fighter to go out and win a world title in America and then take it home. So and I think he'll get a little bit more credit from that, in the sense people they're used to seeing Lawrence, and they give him so much stick about his holding and everything, but he keeps winning. You see against that Yaiz and Garbu. I mean, Dominic Ingle and all the guys in Sheffield were raving about him, and he's a good fighter. He's a really, really good fighter, and you see what Lawrence. Obviously, it was messy and stuff, but he pulled out the finish, and I do believe he's getting better, and I believe that if it had been Lawrence Okolie versus the Lawrence Okolie that boxed Matt Yaskins when he was in against Ngarbu, he'd have been in potentially big trouble, because Ngarbu was better on the inside and stronger and stuff. So he's working his way up, and he's taken this opportunity. It's same sort of situation. It was in the semi-finals of the WBSS. Raiders. That fight was bad. It was like there was an elbow in there. There was a couple of low blows from Glowacki, and then there was a few. I think there was a punch after the bell or something. Then there was
about 30 seconds of punching after.
But initially there was a punch after the bell from Glowacki, and then Brady sort of had enough, and then he elbowed him, and then the ref couldn't get control, and then the bell went, and everyone was going mad. And there was like 20 to 30 seconds of punching after the bell. That just completely done him, and then it got ruled a no contest, and here we are. We've sort of fallen into the position again. So it's nice. It's nice to have these big challenges ahead. Obviously, they're not huge, massive fights, but they are for world title fights. Fortuna's not a big name, and Glowacki's not a massive name, but he has boxed Huck and Usyk, and he's also boxed Bradis as well. So he's been in there with top guys, and I feel like if Lawrence can do a number on him, then it's gonna send shockwaves through the cruiserweight division. And then there's that Arsene Gulamarian, who's a good fighter, who's a WBA champion, and then you've got the winner of Bradis versus Dorcas. So there's some big fights out there, but it's never been a division that people are going crazy about. For us, it's we need to do our thing in the cruiserweight division, and then potentially move up. And just like Usyk, you'll be able to fast track, and you'll be able to skip a couple of levels if you're a cruiserweight world champion. You get the opportunities. Usyk's just had one fight as a heavyweight. He might he might go straight in there to box Anthony Joshua. And you know, if he was a heavyweight, it'd have been like Dylan White, taking all the acid tests to get up the ladder. You know, and it's a much slower process. So that's the plan.
And of course, if he wins the WBO have the rule where if you move up in weight, you become automatic mandatory, which is what we saw with Alexander Usyk. Seems to me like, while a kind of a last-minute opportunity or quite an unusual opportunity with the way that the tournament, the World Boxing Super Series, is laid out, and with that belt becoming vacant, you seem quite fortunate in a sense that you've got a fighter like Lawrence who has really sought out those tests early on in his career and been able to slot straight in. That must be of a huge relief and benefit to you at this point.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's but then again, it comes down to the fighter and whether they're willing to take the challenges, and you know. But Lawrence came to me at a time that, you know, he was already quite established, but from a technical standpoint, there was still so much that can be developed from him. You know, so I really don't feel like he's reached his potential anywhere near he has, and I think if he's able to win world titles without reaching his potential, then, you know, there's some huge growth to him, you know what I mean, as a potential heavyweight in the future as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a real pleasure to be able to work with him, and obviously the fact that this opportunity's come up, I'm having this ongoing joke between Luke and because it's whoever gets their date first, you know what I mean, and it's like, who's going to be the next world champion in the gym. Because I've had 3 world champions, I've had 2 unified world champions with Carl and Taylor, and so, you know, George was a world champion as well. So it's interesting to see who's going to be number 4 and then who's going to be number 5. Because we are going to win both. They're both going to win.
How does that affect your role as trainer? You've got 2 guys who are pretty much fighting within, well, best case scenario, really, 2 or 3 weeks of each other. How are you going to balance that? How are you going to manage that?
Yep. Well, it's going to be a really busy March. I've got a new signing that we will talk about separately. But yeah, I'll have one in early March, and then I'll have CBS. I think it's going to look like potentially around the 14th of March in a fight, and then end of March either Lawrence or Luke, and then there's or maybe both. But I don't think the 2 of them will be on the same card. So, and then there's one in April. So it's good because they all get a chance to push each other and challenge each other in the circuits and stuff like that. And it's so boring when one of them are in camp by themselves. It's just it's tiresome for them, and also for myself. It's like there's no banter, that you can't really joke with the lads and stuff. But the fact that they're all bouncing off each other is a real good thing.
You mentioned Chris Billam-Smith, a nice sort of segue from cruiserweight to cruiserweight. The rumour, or there's a lot of talk about him potentially taking a show down to Bournemouth in the middle of March. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been, and again, we've been in chats with Eddie about taking a next gen show down to Bournemouth. It's not done yet, but you know, it's looking likely. So yeah, it's really nice. It's really good. We've got to find the right opponent for him. There's been Luke Watkins mentioned. There's been a few other guys mentioned. Dion Juma's just boxed Sam Hyde as well, and apparently in a fantastic fight. So you know, those 2 are both in and around the mix. You've got Mikel Lawal, who's early on in his career, but he's also been down sparring lots, and you've got Riakpo has done his hand and stuff like that. So I think Tommy McCarthy's ready to. He's mandatory to fight for the EBU. So it's a really good division at the moment domestically. Lawrence is obviously stepping out of that domestic scene to go to World Honours, but CBS is he learned from his close split decision loss to Riakpo. He didn't let it deter him, and he got straight back in there. And I've got to say a massive thank you to Eddie for giving us the opportunity to fight Craig Glover, because he didn't have to do that, and he's since then gone on and given us the opportunity to take a show down to Bournemouth. So yeah, it's really nice to to have somebody that's excited about CBS as well, because really, from a guy that had only 45 amateur fights, went on trials to the GB, didn't make it, used to come down and spar George Groves, and he'd always be the most reliable person. I could just go like, oh, all right, we're out of sparring, we can't get anyone right, let's just ring Chris. And he'd just be there, I'll be there tomorrow, I'll take a day off work. And yeah, just that enthusiasm has just shown in his character. And then obviously, we linked up, and he's 10-1 with 9 knockouts and one controversial loss, really. So it's nice, and we would really like to get that avenge that defeat.
His last fight against Craig Glover, you just mentioned it there, after the Riakporhe loss, which is a very close fight, could have gone either way. Seemingly the noises coming from Chris and yourself was that he'll learn from that fight. It's one thing saying it, it's another thing putting it into practice. How impressed were you with his performance against Craig Glover on the back of that?
Yeah, really impressed. It just shows that he learned from. Well, he didn't. It wasn't a bad loss or anything. It was just he hadn't had the experience. Riakporhe he had a couple of acid tests against Sam Hyde and Tommy McCarthy, and he'd sort of had those main stage sort of fights, and Chris just really hadn't. He boxed Dupree in the York Hall show, and suddenly he's in there. You know what I mean? And someone like Chris he's a late bloomer, and I really believe that he's someone that once you show him it, he'll keep repeating it and he gets better. And I think you're going to see a much more seasoned fight the more experience he has, because he really is like limited in experience compared to these other guys. So I think so much for Chris, it's confidence, and building off fights and getting momentum, and he's getting that now. There's some really good challenges out there for him. And I really feel like even on the world scene, there's the landscapes of the cruiserweights constantly changing, and it's becoming a really exciting division. So there's huge opportunities, in the near future.
Is the Riakporhe fight, the Riakporhe rematch, should I say, is that the target for this year, or is it kind of if it happens, it happens? Yeah,
definitely. I'd like him to box against a decent opponent in Bournemouth. Maybe get Dion Juma, for instance, or someone like that in like late summer, and then potentially do a build it up. You know what I mean? Like Sky, I know Sky need headline acts. They've got at the moment they've got a lot of pay-per-view fighters, and then they've got a lot of prospects coming through, but they don't have sort of card for obviously you've got the likes of someone like Boatsi that's going to become like a big star. And those are the guys that they need to be pushing forward. But someone like Chris versus Riakporhe, that could be a headline, a headline good show. And it was a cracking fight, the first one, and I believe it will become an even better fight with both of them gaining more experience. So yeah, it's one that we can build up. So it's definitely not off the cards at all. We both, me and Chris, really want that fight, and I'm sure Riakporhe's team does too.
Okay, well, before I let you go, because it has been an exceptionally long day here at the lovely University of Kent, just pick your brain on a few things. I've spoken to you, I haven't interviewed you since Anthony Joshua reclaimed the Unified Heavyweight Championships of the World with his decision win over Andy Ruiz. Impressed with his performance?
Yep, I saw it delayed, I didn't see it live. I was in Thailand, but I couldn't manage to get a bloody streaming system. I was going around all the bars to try and find someone to put it on the box. But no, I was really impressed by him. Obviously, I was one of the people that said, put a gun to my head, maybe Ruiz beats him again, and hold my hands up and say I was completely wrong. It shows the mark of the man to be able to make all that money that he's made and then go back to the drawing board. He brought on Angel Fernandez as a pad man to work in conjunction with Rob McCracken, and they did a fantastic job. He was mentally strong, and he showed no sign of a knockout loss going into that fight. He went out there, boxed to orders, and Ruiz was the one that was underprepared. So it was quite the opposite. It was quite the opposite of what I had a feeling, because it's really hard to motivate yourself when you've achieved so much and you've made so much money. But he's obviously not. He's not defined by that. He wants to build his legacy, and I think he's still got so much developing to do as a fighter. He's such a phenomenal athlete, fast hands, big 6'6" frame, and just quick. So I think he's still got a lot of skills to be developed, and I still think he's got some room for growing in terms of his ability.
Yeah.
Ask me another question through myself.
Okay. You mentioned it's difficult to motivate yourself when you've made so much money when you've achieved what you've achieved in the sport. Do you think that's what we saw with Andy Ruiz in this fight?
Yeah, I really do. I feel like the guy he's seen that straight away on his Instagram. He's going around in Rolls Royces, buying stuff, partying, and he's the first person to admit it. And then when he came in so heavy, it was like, oh, God damn it! Someone like that needs to be light and quick, because the best thing that Andy Ruiz had was his speed, his hand speed, and he wasn't a one-shot concussive puncher. But the fact that he's got a good chin, he lets his hands go when people throw punches with him, he punches with them. It just makes him so dangerous. But it's literally just taken away his reaction speed and everything, and he just took it for granted that he might have thought it was going to be an easy fight. Maybe he felt so comfortable in the first one, but really, if you watch it back, he started much quicker in the first one, hit AJ with a couple of shots early on that kind of got AJ's respect. AJ you could see he was in two minds what he wanted to do in the fight in the first one. Caught him with a fantastic shot, rushed in, got nailed, and then Andy Ruiz. From then on, it was a easy fight for Ruiz. So you're always going to remember the later stages in the fight as a fight. Oh, that was so easy. I could see everything coming, and then maybe he just took his eye. Well, you could see clearly he took his eye massively off the ball. But I still think he's a dangerous fight. I'd love to see him in with Dillian Whyte. I think those are two proper throwbacks. They've both got fantastic left hooks. They both can fight up close, something that we don't see a lot of heavyweights, people being able to fight in close. I'd really enjoy that fight. And he holds so much value because he is the man that beat the man.
Is Anthony Joshua the man again, considering everything that happened in that first fight and kind of the manner of his performance in the second fight? Does he now go back to, if you had him there in the first place, number one in the division?
Styles make fights. Tyson Fury made it look easy against Klitschko. He won against Deontay Wilder. He didn't get the nod, but he won. But I just feel like Tyson Fury's great against guys that load up with big shots, But when people are combination punchers and sort of are able to work in close and just let their hands go in threes and fours, and that's something that AJ is really good at, I think AJ will beat him. But I think AJ will struggle. Well, it's a much more dangerous fight against Wilder. And I think Fury beats Wilder in the return. It's just boxing. So, but then you just don't know until you see it, and that's just my shite opinion.
Humble as ever. You mentioned Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, where it's seemingly round the corner now. Everything that happens after, when you're coming up to a new year, it all seems far away, and then you go January the 1st, and it's, oh my God, it's here. Yeah. That rematch is coming up. Before we talk about that, Ben Davison and Tyson Fury, on the topic of shocking splits, that shocked a few people as well. Did it shock you?
Did, yeah, because it just seemed like they were so close, but it's not all what it seems. Social media is different to reality. No, it was a bit of a shock, and it was from a trainer's perspective, it's not nice to see it. You know, it's not nice to see people not being used, because he got a lot of credit for the way he trained Fury, and he got a lot of credit when Fury should have won that first fight. And they all said it was too soon, and he needed someone with experience in the corner, and he proved a lot of people wrong. And I don't know what the split was. Probably about money. It's not my position to say, but it's just never nice. It's that fighters. There's a great thing about Brendan Ingle talking about fighters or trainers. They'll use you for your knowledge, and they'll abuse you. He had that altercation with Nassim Hamid, and I think really when you have a fighter and you're able to get into their psyche, and you're able to stay with them and spend time with them and understand like what makes them tick. It's an emotional job, and it's something that the two of you both have to be able to let go of. There's boxers are notorious for having a front, putting this show on in the front arm, but really when you break it down, you need to show your trainer what makes you tick, how you work. And I think Ben Davison was able to do that with Tyson Fury. But do I think Tyson Fury wins the rematch with Andy Lee and Sugar Hill in the corner? Yeah, I do. Because I think he's got enough about him now and experience to know that know what to do. He's parted ways with Peter Fury as well, which just he's parted ways with a few people, and those are two guys that work really well for him. And I don't really know enough about the split, but it is a surprise, and it's not really nice to see, because especially someone that took somebody from that position in his life, contemplating not even boxing again, life in general, to then just being like, oh, okay, all right, I don't need you now. It's just not nice.
Yeah, and as you quite accurately said, we don't know what's happened, and social media can be misleading, but it seems amicable to a point, at least. Obviously, I'm not privy to the details, but yes. So the rematch. Tyson Fury's been talking about knocking Deontay Wilder out in 2 rounds. Is that Tyson Fury the showman, or do you see him actually trying to do that?
I think it's Fury the showman. I feel like he's always been a risk-averse fighter. He's always been, weighed up risk versus reward. When he's had to dig deep against someone like Steve Cunningham, he's dug deep and he's just marched people down and shown another dimension. The same thing when he got dropped against Wilder in the last round. He sort of bit down on his gum shield and then went straight back in. He's got the ability to do it, to fight, is what I'm trying to say. But I don't think he'll go out looking for a second round knockout. I know he knows that that's a risky thing to meet fire with fire, and the way to beat Deontay Wilder is to frustrate him, tire him out. He's a bigger lump than Wilder. It's the first time Wilder's had to be punching up, and that's almost like, that's almost where he loses his power. He stands tall and he's able to punch over the top of these guys. That's where he generates his power. And if you actually watch the shot that dropped Fury, is when Fury dipped underneath his jab and he met him over the top. So do I think that he'll do that? No, I don't think so. And I think he'll box to a strategic game plan. And I think with the controversy of the last fight, everyone knew that Tyson Fury should have won that fight. With that controversy, I think that the judges will be much more inclined to giving him close rounds. So I don't see it happening. I see a Fury points victory.
Considering, they're two such contrasting styles, having had those 12 rounds initially, will it be Fury who you feel has the advantage going into the second fight, knowing what to expect from Wilder, or do you see Wilder having the advantage knowing what to expect from Fury?
It's a good point. I think Wilder will go in there with a lot more confidence, that knowing what he should have done. He went headhunting with a guy like Fury. He's got very good head movement and stuff, but his body's not moving. He'll probably shoot way more right hands to the body, try and stop the target from moving, and then bang, 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 come up over the top of him. But saying that, I also think that Fury knows that he stunned Wilder a good few times. Whenever he sort of switched off, he jumped in with a 1-2 and definitely stiffened his legs a few more times. So they'll both have learnt a lot from it. And I don't really know who will have the upper hand. I just feel like in control of the distance, in control of the boxing, Fury was always in control of the pace, of the distance. And you can't be in a ring for somebody for 36 minutes and just suddenly in the 37th minute and going forward in the next fight that you're just suddenly going to be able to figure that trick out, that guy out. And I feel like Fury had that control initially, and that just down to his boxing brain.
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing it February the 22nd. I'd say you should join me, but it sounds like you're going to be very busy over the next few months. Shane McGUIGAN, as always, real pleasure. Thanks very much for having me down to the gym today. And as always, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thank you very much, Rob. Pleasure as always.